David, ever supervisor too?
Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills Regular Township Council Meeting of January 14th, 2014. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on December 18th, 2013, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in both the Daily Record on December 20th, 2013, and the Star Ledger on December 23rd, 2013, and was forwarded by fax to other local newspapers and local radio stations on December 18th, 2013. Note, council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision, Public Access 21, at 12 p.m. on Sundays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero.
Here.
Mr. Peluso.
Present.
Mr. Stanton.
Present.
Mr. Valori.
Here.
Council President Karifi.
Here. Also present, Mayor Barberio, Jasmine Lim, Business Administrator, Paula Cazzarelli, Assistant Business Administrator, John Inglesino, Township Attorney, Yancy Rezermis, Township Clerk, and Joe Kowalczyk, Town CFO. If I can ask everyone to stand for the flag salute. Mr. Peluso.
To the flag.
Upcoming meetings. February 4th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m., agenda meeting. February 11th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m., regular meeting. Presentations. Girl Scouts of Parsippany Troop number 4383, leaders Jennifer Lorenzowitz and Jennifer Lepre, with the Morris County Smoke-Free Parks Coalition requesting that parks and playgrounds in the township be declared smoke-free. If you can step up.
You need to use the mic.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer.
You can take it out if you want.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Lorenkovitz, and with me is my co-leader Jen Lepre, and we are the leaders of the Girl Scout Troop 4383 here in Parsippany, and the Girl Scouts here would like to present their idea.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Iana. We are Troop 4383 from Rockaway Middle School here in Parsippany. The Bronze Award is an achievement that junior Girl Scouts work toward by identifying a need in their community. We have identified the need to have smoke-free parks and playgrounds in Parsippany, New Jersey. We are tobacco-free and care about the environment.
Hello, my name is Rachel. We are here tonight to ask for your support regarding our idea to make Parsippany-Troy Hills parks and recreational areas 100% smoke-free.
My name is Aviana. Members of the Morris County Integrated Municipal Advisory Council offered to attend tonight to assist with our efforts.
My name is Abhilasha. Here are some statistics. Cigarette butts were the #1 most common litter collection during New Jersey beach in 2012.
My name is Morgan. Cigarettes result in 4.5 trillion pieces of litter per year. Every person on Earth would have to pick up 642 butts per year just to keep pace.
Cigarette buds are made from cellulose acetate and are not biodegradable. 494,000 acres of forest are destroyed every year to make cigarettes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Meekum. I work at the Center for Prevention and Counseling. I'm grant funded by the Office of Tobacco Control. I lead a coalition to help promote smoke-free parks throughout northern New Jersey. This is my colleague, Lucille Talbot, and she's part of our coalition. I've helped raise awareness to 56 municipalities throughout northern New Jersey in the past year and a half. And we're here for support of the girls. And I want to commend them. I am so proud to be a part of their coalition to have the smoke-free parks in New Jersey, and we're hoping that this is something that you might want to take into consideration. Madison just made their park smoke-free, so that's also in Morris County. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of tidbit on that, and Lucille wants to share her thoughts.
And I would just like to mimic, thank you very much to the Girl Scouts, because it was their idea and they reached out to us as a coalition to help them because they thought this was such an important initiative. My name, again, is Lucille. I reside in Denville, New Jersey, but I also have a home in Parsippany. So I'm very interested in smoke-free parks, not just because I'm on the Cancer Coalition, but also because I'm a resident, or I own a home in Parsippany. So I think it's really important for all of New Jersey to adopt smoke-free parks. But of course, every single town council decides for their own town what they think is correct, because New Jersey's home rule. So, without taking up too much time on the agenda, I did put together a package of information, or we all did, and on the left-hand side of the packet, you will see some things that are available for you as a resource. There is also free signs that are available to all the towns that decide to go 100% smoke-free. In Morris County recently, I know Cindy just mentioned Madison, but Hanover Township also went smoke-free 100% recently, so they all got free signs. On the right side of your package is a more formal introduction of who we are and other towns that have smoke-free ordinances in Morris County, and there are a couple of sample ordinances for you to review if you consider to go smoke-free, and we'd be happy to come back and do a more formal presentation or answer any questions that you have right now. And just one more comment. Everyone knows someone who has cancer. Everybody's been affected by it in some way or another. And so that's why the Cancer Coalition especially thinks that it's so very important for us to have a smoke-free parks initiative so that we can become better role models so that children hopefully don't begin to smoke either. Thank you very much for your time. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, appointments. Traffic Advisory Committee.
Before you do that, could we just, as a council, thank the Girl Scouts for the presentation? You did an excellent job, young ladies. Thank you very much.
Great job. Any questions or anything? Does anybody have
Yes,
any questions?
just one question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
I guess, for our purposes, what would be the next steps going forward, at this point?
Well, the council would need to discuss this and see what parameters we want to work under. I believe I spoke to you on the phone.
Yes.
Okay? Like, the Knoll Country Club would have to be excluded. I mean, the caterer would go bankrupt. No one would book outings there if patrons couldn't go outside in the patio and have a smoke. He would lose bookings. We'd probably lose half of our golfers if we banned it on the golf course. So we have to consider the parameters before we actually implement something.
And that's why I mentioned previously that every town council and every town has to do with what's right for them and their residents, and we understand that. In Somerset County, they have smoke-free county parks and smoke-free parks for the whole county, with the exclusion of the golf of the golf clubs and Passaic County, and we still give out the signs to the towns for posting in the park. So we understand that there's always
Yeah,
exceptions.
so the first step is the council needs to discuss it and come up with parameters, and then have an ordinance drafted that we all agree with, and then we would introduce it. And I think it would be appropriate at that time, when we are ready to introduce it, to invite the Girl Scouts back at the introduction.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you. You too. Okay, appointments. The Traffic Advisory Committee. Any nominations for that? I have a nomination of, first let me start off by saying, I guess apparently last week at our last meeting, we were under the impression that we had an opening in the Open Space Committee, which we did not.
Okay.
So I would like to nominate Nancy Snyder for the open position on the Traffic Advisory Committee.
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Okay, bids to be taken. January 22nd, 2014, at 11 a.m. The processing of fats, oils, and grease. The acronym FOG, rescheduled from January 3rd, 2014. Requests for quotations, proposals, qualifications, none. Ordinances, second reading and public hearing, none. Like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Councilman Stanton, seconded by Councilman Valori. Roll call?
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. If anyone would like to come to the mic and speak, you'll have 5 minutes. If you could just state your name and address and sign in, please. Thank you.
Mary Przicki, 273 Marcella Road. I realize that this is a new year for the council and for the administration, and I wish them the best, and I do hope that they make really good decisions on behalf of the township residents. I'm here tonight because I'd like to ask a question on Forge Pond area. I know the agreement was signed with Forge Pond developers, and that I believe the planning board went forward and processed their application in due time. So I was wondering where in the process of things is the Forge Pond property and the Forge Pond Dam? Is anybody?
Township attorney.
Hi.
Hello.
We're still in the due diligence phase, determining whether or not the township wants to take the dam or not. We have a meeting scheduled, or being in the process of being scheduled in my office with counsel for the developer, to sort of discuss where we are in the due diligence process. Currently, the due diligence period expires at the end of the month. I anticipate that will be extended. Next month, the council will be briefed on the status of our due diligence efforts.
Is the council involved in the due diligence process, since they're the ones that have to take the vote?
Well,
and the mayor? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, no, as is commonly the case, the town has consultants who perform due diligence and make recommendations.
To the council?
Yes.
so that they'll be informed before the,
Well, they'll know exactly what they're voting on at the time that they vote, but we're not quite to that stage yet.
okay, so in the contract, there was time limit periods for each process. So the extension would be to the, whatever you determine?
Yeah, whatever is agreed upon. I don't think granting extensions is going to be an issue.
And the larger part of the property, has that been transferred, or that won't occur until you make the decision about Forge Pond?
They're separate. It's been
They're
a little
separate.
while since I've reviewed the agreement, so if I knew you were coming, I would have reviewed it specifically for you, Ms. Pazicki. You feel
Well,
free
thank
to
you.
feel free to call me with any questions.
No, it's just that, I actually did read the contract, and I looked at the time frame as far as the days.
Right.
And I'm thinking, holy moly here.
Yeah,
Are we getting it or are we not getting it?
We've extended it since that time period.
Okay. Because, the area of the dam and the historic aspect of the dam and the weir and where the anvil actually lies is important, I think, to understand the history of our township, and I think there's an importance to it, even if you don't put the pond back. But if you had the property of the dam footprint itself, and you took that, and then will you be able, oh, you probably can't answer this question. Will you be able then to say, yes, it's more feasible to put the pond back, or no, leave it as a brook by taking the dam itself? That's my concern, okay? And then the other thing, do I still have some time?
Yes.
Oh, good, okay. The other thing is I'd like to compliment the road department. I know we had some very difficult storms, but I do feel that the staff that they have sometimes is not adequate for the amount of roads that are in Parsippany. I mean, there's 47 square miles, I think, Parsippany consists of.
26.
Huh?
26.
26. Oops. Whoa, I was way off base. Sorry. But it seems to me that when you do sit down to budget for winter storms and storms in general and the public works.
30 seconds.
Oops, 30 seconds. Think about increasing that budget so that the whole township benefits for snow removal and for road repair and for sweeping the roads themselves. I don't see those things happening. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary, addressing the Forge Pond Dam, I'm speaking for myself now. I would like to see the township take control of the dam, take the money from the developer, because that's the only way we're going to be sure that we can preserve the historic significance that we have there. If we leave it to the developer, we don't know what he's going to do with that dam, and he may destroy it completely, and it will be out of our hands. So I completely support us taking the dam.
Yeah, and I have to say, I know I ran out of time, but Michael's been around a long time with that project. He served on the planning board for a long, long time. Sorry. Michael's been around for that project for a very, very long time and was on the planning board mostly through all of that and really knows the history of how that developed.
The council and the planning board.
Yeah, okay, so I think, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Nicholas Homiak from Lake Hiawatha. I'm here with a question. Hopefully it could be answered because it never has been. As of July the 17th, 2008, I almost said 1908, the process of reviewing the regional master plan for the Highlands conformance has been in the process of review. We're even listed here in the municipalities, Parsippany-Troy Hills entirely in planning area, voluntary conformance, entire municipality. I'd like to know what is going on with that. It's frozen in time, and I believe that if we advance with the conformance, we'd be in a lot better state with Forge Pond and any valuable landscapes that could enhance the community. We'd have more oomph in protecting them. And I printed out the thing from the Historical Society, and they're listing their current goals. And increase community awareness and support for historical preservation. Add a historic preservation element to the Parsippany-Troy Hills Master Plan. Now, I found out about Forge Pond myself, and I thought Waterview was the first case of rezoning. I'm finding out that Forge Pond is. But I sent a message to the Highlands and asked if the Forge Pond existed in the state or the National Historic Registers. It does not. But protection of historical, cultural Highlands resource is not a mandatory part of conformance. Should a municipality wish to pursue protection of such resources, the council is equipped to help, but the council does not require it. Once again, we'd be in a better position to get money and expert, we might even be eligible for a transfer of development rights. This developer may be able to get rights to develop in another area that's more suitable to the preservation of the environment and the Highlands. And if we're in conformance with the plan, everything should fall into place. But without the conformance, we're out there in the open. And I just like to read here this a few things. The current zoning places more than 2/3 of non-residential floor space in areas that are inconsistent with the state development and redevelopment plan. And I'm just going to go on here. One of the well-promoted benefits of conformance is the legal shield provided by the state. State regulations or a municipal master plan that is substantially in conformance with the state-level regional plan has a presumption of validity, recognized by all courts of law, which puts the burden of proving otherwise on the plaintiff. A self-standing municipal master plan has no such presumption, forcing the municipality to defend the validity of its authority in every challenge. Legally demonstrate that its ordinances are neither arbitrary nor capricious. So a suing developer, say, not only has a higher bar to satisfy its claim in court, he is in effect suing the state, not the municipality. Plus, the state has agreed to provide some level of legal counsel or representation to Highlands conforming municipality. So I really would like to know, since July of 2008, what process is going on, and if not, an explanation as to why not.
You want me to respond to that?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. One of your first comments was regarding Forge Pond, that it's not a historical site.
No, it's not on the register.
That's correct. And the reason it's not is since the township does not own it, we cannot apply to put it on the historical site when we do not own it. That's another reason I want the township to take responsibility for the dam, because then we can have it registered as a historic site and we can protect it. So that was that one issue. That's the reason it's not there now. Regarding the Highlands, the planning board has discussed this for years, the pros and cons of going with the Highlands. And the reason the planning board has objected to going with the Highlands is that we yield control of development in our township. The Highlands will control it. And they will be looking at the overall good of the entire northern region, not necessarily for the good of Parsippany. What may be good for the whole region may not be good for Parsippany in some instances, and the planning board does not want to lose control of its own town.
I would say that
I just answered your.
Well,
That's the planning board's perspective.
I
30 seconds.
respectfully disagree with the
I understand.
council's assumption that the master plan would take over the rights. It would actually enhance Parsippany, and it would bring into smart development. And if we really care about ourselves, we have to care about more than ourselves. Because if we care about ourselves, we're just, what's the end result anyway? We're still being attacked by developers and sued by developers. So there isn't much left of Parsippany anyway. The greatest thing that Parsippany still has is an aquifer, and that is even on a downslide. We have to acquire water from 2 other sources because we no longer can meet our demand. We actually have, without those 2 extra supplies of water, we'd actually have a deficit. But
That's not true, but I'm not going to debate you.
I would say that it is true. I can't
Thank you.
debate in 5 minutes, but
I can't either.
would the council be open to a representative of the Highlands Council coming to try to promote the plan to change the assumptions?
The
that-
planning board has met with representatives from the Highlands Council several times over the years. That's not something new. And actually, your approach should be to the planning board at this time,
Yeah.
not to the town council.
All right, I'm not sure how things work, but to tell you the truth, after what I saw at Waterview, I don't have much faith in the, to me, they're all for the developers. They're not even for Parsippany. Parsippany was not represented by the planning board during the Waterview fiasco at all, in my opinion. Not at all. That property was not recognized at all
Sir,
for
your
any
ti-
of its
Sir, your
natural
time is up.
assets at
Sorry.
all.
Mr. Council President?
Thank you. Go ahead.
If I might, just the takeaway on Highlands conformance is that it was initiated in 2008, not completed. The primary reason why a lot of municipalities initiated Highlands conformance back in around 2008 was because the Corzine administration held out the carrot to municipalities if they went to Highlands conformance, that the state would reduce their affordable housing requirements. A lot of those regulations, third-round regulations, have since been ruled unconstitutional. The policy question, and there's a lot of uncertainty right now as to what the future of affordable housing is going to be. So I think a lot of towns, not only Parsippany, have been reluctant to complete the process. The fundamental question, policy question for the governing body is, whether or not it would like to seek Highlands conformance. On the one hand, again, the principal benefit to that in the past had been a reduction of the affordable housing obligation on the town. On the other hand, by doing that, the township of Parsippany-Troy Hills would lose a lot of control over its own destiny, not only with respect to potential development but also redevelopment of parts in town. There are some new members on the governing body, and at some point, the council president may want to, schedule a meeting with the town planner to go into this issue in more detail. But that's sort of the short version of the issue.
Anyone else? Sure.
It's a 2-man panel, take that.
Pat Pataccio, 182 Hawkins Avenue. Last week I asked 2 questions. I hope somebody has answers for me this week. First question was whether or not Mr. Inglesino has a conflict of interest in representing the township with RDR. Second question was whether or not who requests the presence of police officers at our town meetings. I would like to stress that these are council meetings. They are not mayoral meetings. They are council meetings. I think that decision is up to the council.
Let me just,
Now-
I just want to let you know, I did not request the officer. I can maybe, do you know who requested that you be here? You were just instructed to be here?
Can we please find out who is instructing?
I don't know if the mayor's,
Probably
I don't
not.
see
He
it right
probably
now.
left. But I need that answer, and I hope you guys will ask that question. Now to get back to what I'm really here about tonight. Would you mind if I sat down?
Go ahead.
I'm a little queasy.
Go
I
ahead.
haven't eaten dinner yet. In October, you passed a resolution, R 2013-209, which was reimbursement of legal fees adopted on 10/8/13. The night this resolution was passed, I questioned the town council if it had anything to do with Council President Brian Stanton or Mayor Barbario. No member of the council responded. I filed an open request and received the following information. I attached that package for Mr. Karifi to look at. Brian Stanton, there was a check dated 10/17/13 issued to Brian in the amount of $5,662.50. Itemized attorney bill was attached, and it was brought before the town council for a vote and apparently passed. Mayor Barbario, check dated 12/10/13 issued to Clifford J. Wenninger in the amount of $5,000. Bill showed only minimum attorney fee representation. Billed $5,000. First of all, that check to the mayor's attorney was done 2 months after the resolution and 1 month after the election. That's good. Jasmine, this is for you. Can you please verify the check type showing on the invoice I received? Brian shows a C, cycled, and Mayor Barbario shows an N, in-house. What does that exactly mean? Can you just wait until the end? Thank you. It is my opinion this resolution was specifically created to enable Councilman Stanton and Mayor Barbario to recoup attorney's fees they previously incurred in regards to the January 13, 2013 Sunday night meeting and the investigation that followed by Somerset prosecutors. I am asking this council to rescind this resolution tonight. Did you really read this carefully, or was this one of those things pushed through again at the town attorney's advice? Things to consider. This resolution allows former elected or appointed officials to be covered. Are we not opening up a can of worms here? Mr. Inglesino makes a point of wording also on his resolution. Because Somerset prosecutors said they found it not viable and did not come out and exonerate them, wording of authority's decision to discontinue prosecution is in place. I ask you, do other towns have such a resolution? Did we check to see if the towns have something similar or feel the necessity to have such a resolution? This resolution was adopted on 10/8/13. Why are we reimbursing Councilman Stanton and Mayor Barbario for their legal bills? Their legal problems occurred prior to the date resolution was passed. Please explain that. Did the town council vote to have Mayor Barbario's attorney reimbursed? Did council members know Mayor Barbario's attorney was reimbursed prior to this evening? Should you have voted on that? How are council members not being included in these important issues? A total of over $10,000 of the taxpayers' money was used. Please explain. I am also unclear on the following. Was Councilman Stanton acting in his official status the night of January 13th, 2013? If he was, who in the township authorized it? Mayor Barbario originally denied there was a meeting. Councilman Stanton confirmed this January meeting took place at the town council agenda meeting of 3/12/13. If this was an official meeting, shouldn't there be a record of what took place? Were minutes taken? Where are they? Township Attorney John Inglesino forgot to bill the township for this official meeting, which he attended. Did he ever bill us after he realized he forgot? Councilman Stanton, can you answer this question? When you requested resumes from Councilman Carifi and Mr. Valori, were you working in your official status or capacity? If so, who authorized it and for what purpose exactly? I again ask that you consider rescinding this resolution
30 seconds.
until it is reviewed and completely understood or possibly revised if the council truly feels a need for it. There are too many unanswered questions which relate to this resolution. Until those questions are answered and the public has a clear understanding of what has transpired, it is my opinion that it would be the taxpayers' best interest not to leave ourselves open. Is this resolution a necessity or done only because Mayor Barbarian and Councilman Stan wanted to be reimbursed for their legal woes? Can we possibly recoup the taxpayers' money? This all came about
Time.
because of the January 13th meeting that at first never happened. Why was Lou Valori requested to be at that meeting if it was an official business? Mr. Valori was not part of the town council at the time. Who requested his presence and why? Where is the transparency? Thank you. I'm sorry I went over.
Yeah, no. Mr. Council President?
Yeah.
I may.
I'll respond to it one more next week.
I am prepared to address the question of reimbursement to members of the governing body for legal fees incurred. We had researched the question back in September of last year, and in response to a request. And the answer is that in terms of town council members and the mayor, it is within the discretion of the governing body as to whether or not they desire to reimburse for legal fees incurred for acts for matters the result of acts in their duties. Now, the township, of course, has insurance for such purposes with respect to civil matters. So if a council member or the mayor, member of the local governing body, is sued civilly by somebody, and they were acting within the scope of their duties, then the township's insurance provider would provide a defense to that lawsuit. When governing body members are accused of criminal activity, however, as was the case here, in that instance, there is an exclusion. I mean, there's just the insurance carriers just don't write that policy. The JIF doesn't provide that coverage, so there is no insurance coverage available to the elected official in that instance. So if somebody were to accuse, as was done in this instance, an elected official of committing a crime, and that accusation resulted in the need to hire counsel, there is no public defense of that municipal official. Now, once the case is concluded, the governing body has the discretion. Frankly, they have the discretion from the outset as to whether or not they wanted to provide a defense. But they certainly have the ability, once the criminal case is closed, and there was a finding of no viability as this case, the case was closed, there was no criminal activity found or pursued by the prosecutor's office. They said it wasn't viable and they closed the case. That was the language in the letter dated May 9th of last year. They closed the case. They didn't prosecute it because they didn't find a basis to do so. At that particular point, the town council has within its discretion the ability to say, hey, somebody was wrongly accused on our governing body, and we believe as a matter of policy that that elected official should be made whole for the expenses they incurred because they were wrongfully accused of a crime while they were performing a township duty or acting in some capacity on behalf of the township. Now, you get into the distinction between a discretionary act and an obligatory act. Discretionary act means the governing body has the discretion to reimburse the elected official for its fees. It does not have the obligation to do so. Interestingly, and that's a case that I will cite to you, O'Donnell v. Board of Chosen Freeholders, actually a Morris County case from 1960, Supreme Court case, 31 NJ Super 434. Interestingly, the state legislature has codified circumstances which would require governments to indemnify the legal costs of their employees. So the rules are different. If you're a member of the Board of Education, you have a right to be reimbursed. If you are a firefighter, you have a right to be reimbursed. If you're a police officer, you have a right to be reimbursed. If you are a municipal clerk, you have a right to be reimbursed. There's specific state statutes that say that those group of public officials have a right to be reimbursed. There is no such state statute with respect to members of the town council or the mayor. Just the legislature just never passed the law. However, the common law is clear that notwithstanding the absence of obligatory or mandatory reimbursement, the governing body reserves the right, when it's in its discretion, to make its elected officials whole, to reimburse them, as was done here, for costs incurred, when they're wrongfully accused. And that's what the council did here. They waited until after the finding was made, and based upon the May 9th letter, the town council, in its discretion, decided to reimburse the mayor and the council president at that time for costs that they incurred. Entirely appropriate. That was my legal opinion then. It's my legal opinion now. But the vote of the resolution of the council was necessary in order for the town to make the reimbursement. If there was no resolution from the town council authorizing that payment, and that payment was made, you would have had a point about something being done that wasn't appropriate. That resolution was an absolute necessary prerequisite towards the reimbursement being made. But again, the council absolutely had the right and the authority to pass that resolution, particularly under the circumstances. And the public policy underlying that is quite obvious. I mean, it's going to be difficult to get people to serve in these positions if they can be wrongfully accused of criminal activity and then have to incur thousands, in some cases tens of thousands of dollars defending themselves for something that they didn't do when they were acting in their capacity as an elected official. And that was the public policy, I think, that guided the decision.
The bottom line, Pat, is the council did meet. We were in closed session because it's personnel related. Brian Stanton and the mayor were not in attendance since we were discussing them when we took the vote. So those minutes are closed session minutes. I guess they will be released at some time in the future. I don't know when.
Both of them were done at the same meeting, the resolution.
We went into closed session and discussed whether we would reimburse them when they were not in the room, and it was unanimously agreed by council members there that we would reimburse them. No, we waited until after the prosecutors said there was no case.
John, you didn't have to have like a trial.
There is no ordinance, just to be clear. There's a resolution.
Oh, by the way, the township attorney also hired an attorney to represent him, and he did not submit a bill for us to reimburse, and he better not.
And Pat, for the record, it came up several times. I didn't wrongfully accuse anyone, so put that on the record.
Pat, also, I just wanted to mention that Mr. Valori and myself were not sworn into office at the time this occurred.
Okay, anyone else? No, you already used up your time, sir. Oh, go ahead.
The C is a check that was issued as part of the regular payment of bills. We pay twice a month. And the N is a hand check. So it wasn't run as it wasn't issued as part of a check run. It was a special check to expedite the payment.
I can speak on that. In December, the way I run bill runs is a little differently than what I do normally every other month. Only because it's getting closer to the end of the year. So instead of running a bills list on the 1st and the 15th of the month, I wait towards the end of the month. So what ends up happening is I'm going to see attorney checks, attorney bills come in, utility bills come in, and those items. Right, and that's what the N is. The way the accounting system works, it records it as a different item. Do I view it as any different? No, it's how the accounting system batches it. So specifically, that's why the two differences.
See no one else come forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close?
Second that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Consent agenda. Be it resolved, all items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine, non-controversial by the Township Council. Be approved by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion for these items unless a council member so requests, which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda, considered in its normal sequence on the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. DePiero. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Ordinance 2014:01, Mr. DePiero.
Ordinance 2014:01, an ordinance of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, accepting an easement on a portion of Block 770, Lot 1, as shown on the official tax map of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills for stormwater management purposes.
Second.
I have to read the rest of it.
Al, her.
I couldn't get the page turned, I'm sorry.
You waited.
Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on January 14, 2014, and that said ordinance be further considered for a second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on February 11, 2014, at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance, that the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law.
Second, again.
Motion by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Ordinance 2014:02, Mr. Paluso.
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, to amend and supplement Chapter 290 entitled Parks, Recreation Areas, and Public Lands, Article 1 of the Code of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills. Be it resolved that the above ordinance is introduced, read by title, and passed on the first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on January 14, 2014, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held February 11, 2014, at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time or as soon as thereafter as a matter to be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning this ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution by.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Paluso, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Okay, before we move on to the next resolution, the first resolution actually, I'd like to make a response to the mayor's statement at our agenda meeting in reference to myself and Mr. Valori, in reference to the town attorney. At our January 7th, 2000 agenda meeting, the council was ready to vote on the resolution pertaining to the town attorney, the reappointment of Mr. Inglesino. Unknown to the council, the mayor requested an opinion from the conflicts attorney by Michael Lavery of the Corder, Colbert, and Cohn law firm regarding Mr. Inglesino's conflict with myself and Mr. Valori. In a January 7th letter, dated the same day as our meeting, the opinion letter states as a municipal conflicts attorney, Lavery found that pursuant to NJSA 40A:9-22.1.1, the local government ethics law, John Inglesino, the township attorney for Parsippany, has a conflict with both Mr. Valori and myself. I believe at this point, Mr. Stanton, Councilman Stanton, would also have a conflict with the town attorney for the same reason that Mr. Valori would, which would now mean a majority of the town council would have a conflict. Mr. Valori, he also stated Mr. Valori has a conflict with Mr. Inglesino. It is logical that since Mr. Inglesino, Councilman Valori, and Stanton, as well as the mayor, were part of the same incident, that the subject of the facts is set forth in the conflict's opinion. Mr. Inglesino has the same conflict with them as well. As elected officials, we are bound by the local government ethics law, as are municipal officers. As a municipal officer, the municipal attorney, Mr. Inglesino, is also subject to NJSA 40A:9-22.1, the local government ethics law. But in addition, he is also governed by the rules of professional conduct as an attorney, specifically RPC 1.7, which requires that when an attorney has a personal interest in a conflict with his or her client, which would be the town council, that they must step aside from the conflict and remove themselves from representing the client. Here, municipal conflicts attorney Lavery has found that Mr. Inglesino has a conflict with myself and Mr. Valori. He states that there continues to be an embroiled personal disputes with the attorney that unquestionably impair that Inglesino, Carriffy, and Valori objectively and independent judgment. The foregoing statement is clearly a reasonable conclusion, as most individuals involved in such heated disputes would have great difficulty putting aside the charged accusations and their self-motivation in carrying out township business. As a result, effectively, Mr. Inglesino must resign as the municipal attorney. This ethics issue was not something that the council created or requested. It was the opinion that the mayor requested and was drafted by a municipal conflicts attorney. As elected municipal officials by the residents of Parsippany, we have taken oaths and have constitutional duties. As such, we cannot waive this conflict that the municipal attorney, John Inglesino, has, and neither can we allow the public trust to be eroded or diminished by this now apparent conflict of Mr. Inglesino. I, as an elected official, as we all do, have a duty to demand Mr. Inglesino resign immediately based upon his conflict as found by conflicts attorney and in accordance with both the local government ethics law and RPC 1.7. I call on my fellow council members and the mayor to call for the resignation of Mr. Inglesino. If Mr. Inglesino refuses to resign, then I ask for a motion to direct the clerk to file tomorrow a written complaint to both the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Division of Local Government Services and District Ethics Committee against Mr. Inglesino and his law firm for his knowing and reckless disregard for this conflict and attempted continued representation of this governing body and Parsippany-Troy Hills.
Oh, Mr. Council President, in the first instance, I think you've misquoted and mischaracterized Mr. Lavery's opinion letter. Mr. Lavery's opinion letter did not say that I have a conflict with the governing body. Mr. Lavery's opinion said that you have a conflict as it relates to me because of public comments that you made concerning the lawsuit that has been brought against your brother. That is not a conflict that I have with the governing body. That is a conflict of interest that you have towards me. With respect to Mr. Valori is the one who has a conflict with me because of the slanderous statements that he made relative to the meeting that Ms. Patachia had discussed. There was no assertion by Mr. Lavery that Mr. Stanton has any conflict in voting for me. I don't see any state of facts that would give rise to that. That is absurd. And certainly there is no conflict that I have with my client, who is the governing body, the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills. I am not the lawyer for any individual council member. I am the lawyer for the municipality. So I think that before you start to ask for such motions, which I think further evidence your conflict and your bad faith towards me, and further evidence your anger towards me for doing my job and representing the municipality as it relates to the lawsuit concerning your brother, I think, frankly, that you should think twice about that.
Mr. Inglesino, obviously, if you're stating we have a conflict with you, that would mean you would have a conflict with us. And how you can say that Mr. Stanton would not have a conflict with you, he was involved in that incident as well. So,
first of all, there is no conflict between you, Stanton, and the township attorney. Second of all,
well, maybe we should ask Mr. Stanton that.
Councilman, first of all, you're using your position. You're arbitrary and capricious. You're using your position to squash litigation against your brother.
Mayor, this is Mayor, this is my meeting. This is my meeting.
Oh, well, I'm going to speak.
I will let you.
If it's your meeting or not.
No.
Point of order.
Mr. Mayor, this is my meeting, Mayor. And first off, I am not using this meeting to squash anything, okay? I am not. And you know what? Mayor, I've asked for you to do this. If you're not going to do it, I'll entertain a motion, and we'll move forward, and we'll see what those boards and committees have to say in reference to it.
Mr. Karifi,
Council President, let me just point out, this is not your meeting. This is a township council meeting.
And I was in the middle of speaking. Well,
you've been speaking, and it's in all due respect, it's turned into a debate, and I don't think that's good for the township. I think the debate should end. Okay, if you want to take a vote, take it, but I don't think you should continue to debate.
That's all I asked. I asked to entertain a motion. I asked a question if the mayor was going to ask Mr. Inglesino to resign and look for a new attorney. If he says no,
if there's a conflict, maybe you should resign because you're using your position as the council president to squash the township attorney.
No, I am not. I am asking
on the record as well.
I am asking for an outside agency to determine, because you had a conflicts attorney look into it. I had attorneys look into it, and their legal opinion was different. So I'm asking for an outside agency.
Who are the attorney? I gave you the Lavery. Who was your attorney?
That's
Mr.
Karifi.
Point, who is your attorney?
And how much did we pay for that? You know what?
I mean,
I'll go to what Mr. DePiero stated. I go to what Mr. DePiero stated. I asked to entertain a motion.
You have no name for an attorney.
To move forward with that, and that was it.
You have no name for an attorney.
Move forward with the motion.
Mr. Council President, I would advise that if you have, if that is an issue that concerns you, the municipality has conflicts counsel. My advice to you, my view is that you should seek an opinion from conflicts counsel so that you do not run the risk of committing an act of official misconduct, which if you continue to persist in this way after you've been advised of a conflict, that is a potential consequence, particularly to you and to Mr. Valori. I think that I'm giving you sound advice on a way that you should proceed if you want to pursue this issue.
All I am asking is for an outside opinion. I do not need to accept your opinion or the conflicts attorney who you've appointed.
Your motion wasn't that. Your motion was, the local finance board doesn't give opinions. They adjudicate. So your motion, I believe, although the clerk has it down, was to ask them to require me to resign. If you want an opinion on the issue, you should get it from conflicts counsel for the municipality. That would be, in my view, the prudent way to approach the issue. If Conflicts Counsel agrees with your view, that's one thing. If Conflicts Counsel doesn't, it's another. If you have a conflicting opinion letter from another attorney, it would seem to me that in order for your view to have credibility in a legal sense, that you should provide that. But in the absence of that, I think you should, if you're concerned about the issue again, ask Conflicts Counsel to render an opinion. That's the way you should proceed.
And can I ask, who appointed the conflicts attorney? Who chose them?
As is the case in all appointments under this form of government, the mayor would have made an appointment, and the municipal governing body would have, approved it. But, to suggest that a lawyer, particularly a lawyer in this instance, well, I don't know what your suggestion is, but that's the answer to your question.
Okay, but if I may, what you just stated was that we approved it. That letter that we were given right before we were about to vote, I don't believe anybody on the town council had any idea that letter was coming. We had no idea where it came from, who it was coming from, so we didn't approve that.
Nobody said you did. You asked who approved Conflicts Counsel. Mr. Lavery was appointed by the mayor and approved by the governing body.
Okay.
So he is an attorney there, and he's an attorney who does provide legal advice and services to the township when I have a conflict.
Okay, and I did not, all I asked was that a complaint be made to the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Division, local government, and ethics, so that we can get a decision from an outside, neutral.
A complaint is an accusation. A complaint is not asking somebody for an opinion. A complaint is an accusation. And all I'm saying is that if you want, and again, it further evidences, I think, a position that you should not be in for yourself. You have a conflict as it relates to me because of the public statements that you made to NJ.com regarding your brother. As it relates to me, you have an axe to grind with me because of your brother, and those comments were made publicly. I understand that.
That is your opinion.
Well,
That's not true. That's your opinion.
that's my opinion. It's Mr. Lavery's opinion, and I think it's a pretty obvious legal conclusion. Mr. Valori has a similar conflict.
What's that, Counselor?
Read Mr. Lavery's opinion.
Yeah,
it's right in Mr. Lavery's
I'll be
opinion.
quite frank with you. I did read his opinion, and at the time what he wrote up there, I read, doesn't seem that he obviously acknowledged exactly what took place in his opinion. And again, he says that you were cleared of these allegations. That was never true. Obviously, all it says the case was not viable, and they closed it at this time. His opinion stated that obviously you were cleared of wrongdoing. All he is, you weren't cleared of wrongdoing. So the question I have for you, Mayor, is this. I have no problem with you bringing this letter forward, but do you really think it's professional and ethical 2 minutes before we're going for a vote for the township attorney, and just hypothetically, if we had voted no, the township attorney was a carryover, he was a holdover no matter what.
Still is.
So do you think, professionally, that would be the words of advice and wisdom to do in the near future, presented a letter that you would not even read to the public? You read the last paragraph. I asked you to read it, but you wouldn't. You handed it to the township clerk here. You read the last paragraph. Let me ask you a question. As a mayor, do you think that's professional? 2 minutes before a vote.
Councilman, I'm going to answer your question. I received it that day.
Okay, you received
And
it that
I-
day. But do you still think
you're
2
not
minutes
gonna let
before
me
the vote?
finish.
All right, Mr. Mayor, go
Blah,
on.
blah, blah.
Go on. Your appearance of what you did is horrible.
The appearance of what you did was wrong. Making
if you-
accusations and all that kind of stuff. We can
Mr.
sit
Mayor,
there and debate that as well.
We could talk about
You're
that
in, you're
another
in
time.
conflict.
Everything I
You're
told
in
that took
conflict.
place,
You're
timeline
arbitrary and capricious,
was truthful.
just like council president.
So let me.
Look, all right.
All right, I'm making a motion, R 2014-011 be tabled at this time. That's my motion.
Okay. Continue voting down all my appointments, because that's exactly what you're going to do. Remember, you speak to a lot of people, though.
You're acting real professional, Mayor.
No, I'm going to come sit
You
in the
must be getting the
audience.
advice. Another wrong advice.
Arbitrary and capricious.
Go for
That's
the vote.
exactly what you're being.
Okay.
Mayor, please don't slam the days there. Okay.
Act professional, please.
Okay, so I'd like to entertain a motion.
Professional.
I'd like to entertain a motion to direct the clerk to.
I gotta read.
What's that?
I didn't read it. I didn't get a second.
There was a motion to table. Is there a
I
second?
made a motion to table. Is there-
Mayor, are you making allegations or sending comments to me for the record? Don't sit there and make comments towards me while I'm sitting up here. I'm an elected official like everyone else. I want that on the record, the mayor, making comments towards me as I'm sitting here. Yeah, your attorney. That's the person I believe in.
Okay. All right. We have a motion on the floor.
I'm making a motion to table R 2014-011. Okay, read. Resolution. Go forward.
Well, I'd like to entertain a motion to direct the clerk.
Second that motion that you had earlier.
No,
I'd
I'd
like
like
to
to hear the
entertain a
motion again, because he's reworded it several times.
To file a written complaint to both the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Division of Local Government Services and the District's Ethics Committee in reference to Mr. Inglesino, so we can receive an opinion on if there in fact exists a conflict on both sides, and therefore he would need to resign as the town attorney.
Mr. Creevy, that you don't get, you don't file a complaint to receive an opinion. You file a complaint to file charges on the basis of conduct. If you want an opinion, you have to seek it from your
All right, so
counsel.
then
Your
we'll-
motion does not, your motion doesn't make
No, I'm entertaining
sense. It doesn't, your
All right,
motion's
so
not
then-
proper. What you should do is you should get an opinion from your conflicts counsel, and you should at least provide some basis for your allegations that I have a conflict with you or
But
Mr. Valori or with Mr.
The issue we
Stanton.
have here is the conflict attorney is appointed by the mayor. So that's the issue that we have here.
Well, listen, judges are appointed by governors. They're professionals, and they are paid to offer professional opinions, and that's what they do. If you are insinuating that because the mayor's appointment would compromise his professional integrity, I think that is very far-fetched.
Okay, so then at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to request that the clerk get an opinion from the conflicts attorney in reference to this, and then we'll proceed from there.
In reference to what? I mean, it's got to be in
If
the
there, if
motion.
Mr. Inglesino, if there exists a conflict both ways, so where he would have a conflict, I would like to ask Mr. Stanton, does he believe that he has a conflict with Mr. Inglesino?
No, I'm trying to understand your motion, but it's got to be, the whole motion's got to be made, okay? Restate it again so I can understand it.
First, I just want to make sure, so we have, there's a
Yeah,
majority
I
of the
have-
council. Mr. Stanton, do you believe that there's
I'm not making any comments. If we're going to go forward and we're going to vote on the appointment, we're going forward.
well, we're not voting on the,
Well, then, let's move forward then. Make your motion, let's move forward.
I'd like to entertain a motion to have the conflicts attorney give us their opinion as to whether there exists a conflict going both ways, and if Mr. Inglesino has a conflict with the majority of the town council.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any comments?
Well, I think
You understand,
the other,
Mike?
I think the other part of your motion, Mr. Council President, if I may, is whether or not I am eligible to be the township attorney on the basis of the answer to the conflicts questions that you pose, right? And that's
Yes.
what you're looking
Okay,
for?
yes.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
I'll second that motion.
I need somebody to make it.
I have some questions before the motion is made.
I thought you made the motion.
You know, it's never too late to do the right thing. Civility all day, every day is what I believe in. You know, I see a lot of conflict up here, discussions of conflict. Quite frankly, I'm not happy with it. You know, good ethics is knowing what's right and what's wrong, and there's no need to interpret a law to determine that. The mere appearance of impropriety or potential conflict or the temptation for a reasonable person that you would depart from making the right decision compels people to disqualify themselves sometimes or not to participate in certain business. The questions that I have listening to what has transpired here today is, what is the proximity and degree of this conflict? You know, I question any contractor or attorney, can they be objective in conflict with several councilmen? Who are they working for? Does it impair their objectivity? And can they be independent in their judgment, hearing what you hear today? This goes both ways, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I was very disappointed to see a conflict letter, a determination at the last council meeting. I had originally motioned to table that in order to enable the councilmen to read it, enable to myself and other councilmen up here to read it, to make it public, to ensure that the public is aware and transparent as to what that conflict was. You know, I also question, can individuals give detached advice? Will the interest of our residents be best served? Will the council and the mayor be best served? Listening to what I hear today, I don't really feel so. What's in the client's best interest is always the most important thing. You know, I question if there can be any reconciliation between the councilman that was accused of conflict. But common representation is important, not only for the council, but for the mayor, our employees, and our residents. Again, I question, can the interests be reconciled? Or is this going to continue throughout the year to cause us embarrassment or additional cost? I don't see the benefit here. The possibilities of acting in the best interest of our public and our councilmen is up to Mr. Inglesino. You know, the mere appearance of impropriety, having him being held to a higher standard as an attorney, knowing the legalities of things, is important. So I agree that we should proceed in a professional way. There is a question of concern. Obviously, I questioned some concerns myself as a newly elected councilman. I would like to see an independent determination, one that is transparent, one that is not affiliated or appointed by any of the parties that we mentioned here today, which includes Mr. Inglesino, the mayor, Councilman Valori, Councilman Stanton, and Councilman Karifi. So in order to make a motion, I feel that we should make a motion to choose an independent council to make that determination. Thank you.
The problem, if I might, Councilman, is if the council feels, first of all, under this form of government, the council does not have the authority to appoint a professional, including an attorney.
Understand that.
Only the mayor has the power to appoint.
Can we appoint an arbitrator?
Well, there's not an arbitration proceeding. What I think you solicit and need is an opinion from your conflicts counsel on the subject. I mean, an arbitration is if there's a dispute, like a lawsuit that doesn't go to court, it goes to an arbitrator.
In the event our appointed attorney determines that there is or is not a conflict, at what point can that be challenged?
Well, I mean, anybody can challenge an opinion.
Okay. So if that opinion can be challenged, who would challenge that opinion?
Certainly an individual member of the governing body could challenge that opinion. I suppose a member of the public could challenge that opinion.
So if it's challenged by one of the councilmen that the determination is viable or not viable for a Corder, Robert, and Cohen, who would be, again, is there an arbitrator that can work between everyone to find harmony? At the end of the day, what I like to see here is a harmonious council with the mayor and legal representation working together as one.
Absolutely.
That's what we all want.
Well, again, in this form of government, the mayor makes the appointment, and the council either ratifies that appointment. If a person is in place and you were to not ratify the mayor's appointment as it relates to me, then it would simply be a holdover. That's your form of government answers all of your questions.
I'm well informed about the Faulkner type of government. Thank you.
John, can I ask you a question? Let's just be quite frank here. You brought up, or the mayor brought up at the last minute, a concern after we were sworn in last week. We had our first meeting. So obviously several days went by before this idea came up that there was concern about you. And your concern was about us. Needless to say, we brought up nothing during that council meeting. The good mayor did just prior to going to vote. So it's unfortunate that you felt that way about us, and it's unfortunate that now we have a lot of concerns about your abilities. So how do you think that we're going to really work unless we have an independent individual come in and say, okay, you could do this or you can't do this? But the reality is, you have a concern with working with myself and Mr. Creefy, and I truly believe that's going to impede your judgment. Because, let's just face it, you were up here as a township attorney when you deprived somebody of their First Amendment right to speak. And then you gave your excuse way after the fact of why you did it. But the reality is, you have a history since you've been here, when I wasn't a councilman, that have some concerns. But again, you brought your concerns up the night last week, literally 2 minutes before we were going to a vote. It would have been nice, professional, if, in fact, we would receive that letter. We get emails from Yancey constantly. We could have got that email sent to us, and then obviously it would have been more open and transparent, and wouldn't have been, a surprise at a dark hour before you go to a vote. So I think that you have concerns, and we have concerns. So, like, Mr. Peluso had stated, we want to do what's right for the taxpayers, the citizens that elected us. But the reality is, we both have issues. We're both in conflict, and you're definitely in conflict with us.
Well, but again, I think that Councilman Creevy, or Councilman Valori, I didn't say anything last week. I think that.
Well, let me ask you a question. Who decided to have that conflict attorney presented Tuesday night, literally 2 minutes before the vote? So you and the mayor had some type of conversation, dialogue, to go to that conflict attorney, okay? The date was on that letter was the date of the council meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. DePiero, please for a second.
Well,
Let me
please,
finish-
please end
Let
it.
me finish.
Please end it. This is
Wait,
ridiculous.
Mr. DePiero, please.
Go ahead, finish.
So the reality was, when did you or the mayor decide that you should go to a conflict attorney? Was it the day after we got sworn in? So listen, we got sworn in on a Wednesday. The following week was Tuesday, so literally 4 work days were going by for, to have this meeting. So what made you guys decide to go at the last minute? That was my concern.
Mr. Creevy, run the meeting, please.
All right. I'd just like to add one more thing. Mr. Inglesino did state that we have a conflict with him. He doesn't have one with us. But just an excerpt from the document that we were handed by the mayor just before the vote last meeting states the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office investigated the charge and subsequently found no wrongdoing on the part of Attorney Inglesino. Nonetheless, Attorney Inglesino threatened legal action against Councilman Valori and asserted that he would follow through unless an apology was received. So by that statement right there, I would say that Mr. Inglesino has a conflict.
All right, if I'm correct, we have a motion on the floor and we had a second
Yes,
by
we do.
Mr. Valori.
Yes.
Can it be repeated and can we go forward?
That we direct the clerk to get an opinion from the conflicts attorney based on the information that was stated, if there exists a conflict both ways, with Mr. Inglesino with us and us with Mr. Inglesino. Obviously, they've already stated that we do, so I'd like to get an opinion from the conflicts attorney if, in fact, with the information that I gave, if there exists a conflict with Mr. Inglesino with us.
Well, and that would, just to finish the motion again, I think that would preclude me from serving as township attorney. Is that correct, Mr. Council President?
That is to get us to see if there's a conflict that exists, because then if there is, if they state there is, then we would move forward from that point. So do I have I'd like to entertain a motion to direct the clerk to,
Before I vote, I need to ask this question of Mr. Valori and Mr. Karifi. Are you going to abide by the decision once it comes back? Or is this debacle of a public meeting going to continue every month?
Mr. DePiero, first off, I don't consider this a debacle.
I do.
I think this is a very important issue to the residents
I think this is an embarrassment to the township to have this kind of a debate go forward for this long.
Mr. DePiero.
with
That is,
no
that is your
resolution.
opinion,
That's your
and
opinion.
I can't answer
So my
your question.
question
I
again
can't
is,
answer your
will
question.
you abide by the answer you're requesting on your motion?
I'm not going to answer that
Mr.
question.
DePiero.
You're not going to answer.
No, I'm
Okay.
not.
Go through the motion.
Okay? So, you making that motion?
Yeah, I'm making the motion.
The motion is
Do I have
then
a second?
meaningless if he's not going to abide by it.
I'm making the motion, Council President.
Okay, do
to
I have a
move forward.
second? I'll second it. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
No.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton.
No.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Okay, now, once again, I am going to make a motion, R 2014-011 be tabled, because there is no reason to go forward at this time.
I second that.
Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Why not?
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes. Resolution 2014-017, Mr. Valori.
Resolution of the Town Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills confirming the appointment of Anthony J. Freeze as Chief Municipal Judge. Motion to approve the above resolution by?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Valori, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Resolution 2014:018. Resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills confirming to the appointment of Gerald P. Scala as Municipal Court Judge. Motion to approve.
Here, no second. Motion fails. Mr. Paluso, 2014-019.
Resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills awarding contract to Nizavacha LLP for professional services as Township Auditor. My motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Paluso, seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Before I vote, I just thought it would have been appropriate to notify our current auditor that he was not being considered as a courtesy. I'll vote yes. I know Nisavacha.
Also, let me just, if I may add to that, it's contingent upon the attorney review and approval of the pay-to-pay documents. Just add that to the record, please.
That's fine, but I'm just stating the obvious, we didn't even notify the previous auditor that he was not being considered. I don't think that's correct. But I would not vote no against Nisavacha. They're a good firm. So that's a yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Paluso,
I agree with Mike DePiero. We should have notified the existing auditing firm, but they are a good firm, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Applications, Mr. Stanton?
Or 2014-020, Resolution Township Council, Township Parsippany-Troy Hills, approve a new limousine license for Royal American Taxi Limo, LLC. Motion to approve the above.
Second that.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Application R 2014-021, Mr. Valori?
Resolution of the Town Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills amending Resolution R 2013-255, authorizing a person-to-person transfer to preliminary retail distribution license for Wine Empery Wines and Liquors LLC. Motion to approve the above resolution?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Valori, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. At this time, we're going to be going into closed session to discuss ongoing litigation. The resolution, whereas the Open Public Meetings Act
Contract negotiation.
Contract negotiation.
and contract negotiations.
Yeah, both.
Okay,
I
and
had
contract
one.
negotiations, okay? Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss attorney-client privilege and contract negotiations. And whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting.
Second.
Motion made by myself, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
We're on.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to reconvene.
I'll make a motion to reconvene into open.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Pirro, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.